Buyers, not all buyers are qualified.
Guess who's back?
How did I know you were going to come in with that?
Had to. Yeah. What's up, Kyle?
Well, just tired of COVID.
Right. Yes, that is going to be a part of the topic for today's podcast is how COVID affects hunting. Before we get into that, though, we're going to go on to a topic that we've probably talked about in...
Well, do you want to talk about the COVID first? Because I don't know if that's as lengthy of a topic as the other one. So let's talk about the COVID first.
All right. It's probably good because it get me all fired up talking about the other one.
I know. Want to thank Mark Birdwell, one of our listeners, and a friend of mine I went to high school with, sent in some topics to discuss, and he requested that we talk about COVID restrictions and how they've affected hunting this year, from the quarantine to state roads and state parks being closed and all that stuff. And so I think we'll touch on that first. Mark, thank you for sending in those topics. We've been asking for topics for a while, and,
right.
And he's one of the first to send it in. So
yep.
And before we do that, we also want to let me find it here. Wanted to send a shout out.
I'm going to give a shout out to Maggie.
Okay.
She got her first mule deer buck a few days ago.
Nice.
A couple weeks ago, actually.
Nice.
62-yard shot through the heart. 140-inch mule deer. Super cool dad moment.
Definitely.
Loved it.
I was a little sad. I'd been out hunting with you guys the three previous days.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to go down and, not had to. I kind of had to. It was family.
It was Thanksgiving.
Yeah. I went down to Thanksgiving with my family, and that's the day you guys decided to go out and saw this buck. So
yeah. We'd been going pretty hard, me and you and her, chasing them. And that day we got to put it together, and nice buck for her. She's going to be a little spoiled now. Taking a good old 140-incher.
Yep.
But super, super fun. One shot. Dropped him like a rock. Good meat in the freezer. And she wants to make green chili stew.
Nice.
So we got some mule deer green chili stew coming soon.
Excellent.
Yes, excellent choice.
Very excellent. Another shout out to a Waylon Wade. And I can't find the actual message itself, but he sent us a message talking about how our podcast has really helped him out, giving us some really good, information, and helped him with the draw stuff. So, Waylon, glad to help. Glad that you're listening. Share it with your friends. Hope you guys continue to listen. We are grateful for all of our listeners and hope that you guys enjoy the podcast. If you get a chance for us, go to whatever podcast app that you're using and rate us, preferably that 5-star rating.
Mm-hmm.
Go to our Facebook page and follow us. Instagram. And follow us. And YouTube, we also have a channel. We've been fairly lax about that. I'm going to try and put some more content. We're videoing this podcast. That's going to go on there.
We also have a website.
We do have a website. Trying to catch that back up. It's been a crazy couple of 6-8 months.
All that COVID time.
All that COVID time. I didn't get off though. I didn't get the whole sit at home time.
Right.
So,
speaking of appreciation for our listeners, we have a giveaway.
We do. I was wondering where you're going with that, and
Right.
that was the next thing I was going to touch on. So I'm glad you picked it up.
So we're giving away a cow elk hunt with Kyle and I in sometime late January.
Mm-hmm.
And if you will go to our Instagram page or our Facebook page and find the post, it's on there. It's a picture of some cow elk. Says cow elk giveaway, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, go on there, tag 5 friends.
Share that post to your story.
Share that post to your story. If you tag 5 friends, you get 1 entry. If you share the post to your story, you get a second entry. Tell your friends, tell your family.
Yep.
Enter yourself, enter your wife.
Yep.
Follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, do all that cool stuff. We'll give you a couple of entries. A lot of people already entered, so but
we had a kind of a guy that it was humorous. He's like, so if I tag 5 friends and then tag another 5 friends, do I get another entry?
Yeah, no,
no, you just get the 2 entries. So.
But still go tag 10
But still
friends.
go tag 10 friends. Absolutely, yeah. So
because the more exposure we get, the more cool stuff like this that we can do.
Absolutely. So COVID.
It's an interesting topic. Here's my take on it.
Do tell, Rodney. Do
right?
tell.
I don't know. Might not be a very good. Might not be. I'm a little dense, so it might not be too good.
So jabs are flying.
Anyway,
Are flying.
As far as hunting goes, I don't see a lot of issues. One thing I'll say is that I think I'm interested to see the numbers next year. Mm-hmm. I have a feeling that harvest rates, success rates are going to be up a tick. And here's why.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot more people through COVID, had a lot more time to get out and scout.
Well,
and put boots in the ground more than they normally do.
You saw more than I did this summer how much our public lands were getting used.
Yeah. Right? Yeah, and I did. And that's another thing I'll get to in a minute. But just for the hunting side, hunting specific, to me, I think that is going to be one of the biggest things is if you look on social media, every other day there is a picture of not just a deer, but a great deer.
Yeah.
And I think that a lot of that, it's not because all of a sudden we have a ton of huge deer. It's because people have had more time. And again, this is speculation, pure speculation.
Pure speculation.
I'm really looking forward to seeing the numbers next year.
Because that's where it really plays out.
That's where we'll see it. That's where we'll see the actual evidence. And I'll try and pick up on that when we do that podcast, which we do every year.
Right.
But I really think that that's going to be the case because there's been a lot of deer, a lot of people having success. Maybe it's just people have more time to put it on social media.
Or maybe it's just more people are using social media to post that type of stuff.
Because they're sitting at home,
right,
not working.
Yeah.
But I think it has more to do. I really do. I'm going to give the people the benefit of the doubt. I think it has to do with more people have more time to get out in the woods, look around, find new places, scout, and and find the animals
and spend the time. And spend the time once they found that animal. I know. We talk about it often that sometimes you only get a weekend to go out and hunt. With the shutdowns and the lockdowns and the time at home, I think there was probably some element of, hey, I've got time. I'm going to take the entire hunt. And I'm going to go hunt. And I'm going to hunt hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do. I do think that those are some things, and hopefully our listeners will respond to this and let us know. But I really think that that's the case. I really think that a lot of people have had more time to spend out in the woods and get out there and find some new places to hunt and find some of their own hunting holes. Maybe get out of their comfort zone, and which leads me to another topic of the number of people in the woods. So I know, what is it, the I never get them straight. Memorial Day, Labor Day. Which one is in September?
Labor Day is in September.
Okay. So I know that weekend there was like a gazillion people up there in the forest.
Yeah.
I mean, they were everywhere. And that's opening day bow season, right?
Yeah.
So the forest was just overrun with people. And a lot of the easy access places, you've got a whole bunch of people that aren't hunting running up and down the roads.
Yeah.
So that's going to force people to find new places.
Right.
To go to new areas, to find places that it's harder for others to get to. Because the casual weekender who's just going up there to camp or get away or get out of the house, they're not looking for that. But the hunter, he's going to get up there to his normal spot, find 50 people camped there, and be like, well, I can't hunt here. And now they're going to have to go deeper in.
Yeah.
They're, like you said, they're going to have to hunt harder. They're going to have to go further. They're going to have to get further in. So that's another area where I think COVID has really affected. And I saw that firsthand.
Yeah.
Not because I was hunting, but because I was up there and just saw the number of people that were on the forest that weekend.
Yeah.
And even on my elk hunt,
Well, and I've heard about it. I heard it. It's not just isolated to, let's say, that area, that forest, because I heard about it pretty much across the state. On the Vividal, I still talk to game warden buddies, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, it was just wall to wall people."
Yeah, you had to have reservations to go fishing at Grindstone.
Yeah,
you had to make reservations to go fishing, and that's just crazy because there's so many people off. They're, let's go fishing. We can't do anything else.
Yeah.
There's already a bazillion people at Home Depot and Lowe's, Walmart, because they're the only stores open, shut down all the mom and pops.
Yeah.
So, what are your options? You go camping. Well, camping, there's a bazillion people up there. So, let's go fishing. Well, you got to have a reservation.
Yeah.
On a public freaking lake. It's crazy. And even our hunt, we hunted that elk hunt. Was it 4 years ago?
Mm-hmm.
And we didn't hardly see any other hunters at all. And this year, we were just stepping on them left and right.
Yeah.
There was tons of them. And that's just what it is. You're this year, I think you're going to have to go a little further, hunt a little harder, get a little further back in there. But it seems to be paying off. It really does. I think that a lot of people, despite the increase in traffic from just regular people who are wanting to get outdoors, not necessarily hunters, the increase in your recreational users of the public land has increased so much, but it really doesn't seem to have affected success rates as far as I can tell.
Yeah, like you said, it'll be interesting to look at the numbers next year. I think an interesting point to kind of touch on is there was some fear that the lockdowns early on in the year would severely affect the hunting. There's some fears that they would lock down and say, the residents or the non-residents can't come in, and basically they did. Said you come in, you got to quarantine. But there's no way to enforce that.
No.
The game
and you are quarantining. If you're going out there and you're camping, you're quarantining.
Yeah. But the Game and Fish, as far as the Game and Fish was concerned, those licenses were already sold, and so there was no canceling of hunt seasons, and so there was no restrictions of people not being able to go out and go hunt. In fact, like you said, I think it was more so people had more time to go do it.
Yeah.
Now, there was some, I guarantee you there were some hindrances because you had the state parks which were closed to non-residents. Yeah. So take, for example, some areas like the Colin Neblet Wildlife Management Area. The access into those areas are basically the Cimarron Canyon is state park. it was closed, meaning the campgrounds were closed, the facilities were closed. But within any of those areas, let's say Sugar Eat, well, no, Sugar Eat's a little bit different, but like Cimarron Canyon is a good example. Eagle Nest is a good example. They're bordered by wildlife management areas. In fact, in Cimarron Canyon, the state parks leases the canyon that is the state park from the Game and Fish because it is on the wildlife management area property. Within those areas, we have an agreement with state parks. There are free parking areas for fishing, hunting, access. And so it would not have affected the access to those wildlife management areas, thus it wouldn't have affected the hunting. The only thing it really would have affected is the camping in the state park.
Yeah.
It's just like, I know some anglers had some problems with like state parks closing down. And I think there was some grief there because the state parks don't actually own the lake. The Game and Fish, like Eagle Nest Lake, Game and Fish owns that lake. But to get to the lake, you got to go through the state park. So there was an issue there. But let's say Cimarron Canyon, the Cimarron Creek, the river that runs through there, there's really not a way for them to tell you can't fish there because the creek is public water and you can fish that.
Yeah.
Again, it's just the facilities that were shut down, all that stuff.
And that is one area where I'm sure there was a lot of issues this year, is camping. Dispersed camping is fine, but what about
so
many RV parks?
Yeah.
So many camping areas, improved camping areas. They were all closed.
Yeah.
You know, and so that had to have. You know, it doesn't affect us.
No.
You know, because we don't camp like that.
Yeah.
We do the dispersed camping. Don't get me wrong, we have, but for the most part, we do dispersed camping, so it really didn't affect us much. But there's a whole slew of hunters out there that don't. They go to improved camping areas. They take their families with them, and then they hunt from these improved camping areas. And I can just imagine the issues that it would cause, you know, people like that. And then, of course, you have New Mexico hunters that go hunt out of state.
Yeah.
And I know plenty of people that have left the state for certain things, but then they kind of had to come home and quarantine for 14 days.
Right. Yeah.
And if you've taken time off to go hunting, you've obviously told your boss, yeah, I'm going hunting, and it's out of state, and I'll be gone for 14 days. Well, then you got to take another 14 days off. And I'm sure that caused a lot of issues with people, you know, taking 14 days off and then having to quarantine for 14 days. COVID is not, for an outdoor sport, COVID has probably not been as bad on hunters as a lot of things, but it hasn't been real great either.
It hasn't terribly affected the hunters. It's affected the economy. So, when you look at really who it's affected, outfitters to a degree. The turkey hunts back in the spring, it affected some outfitters there. But really, when you look at the whole picture, as far as hunting goes, it was most detrimental to small businesses and the economy of these rural communities. Yeah. Now, on the other side of things, it has had a severe impact on the fishing outfitter side of things. And I don't know dollars, but hundreds of thousands of dollars lost in the fishing side of things because of the guided activities portion of it. Who knows? It's hard to say, but like we said, we were pretty lucky as outdoorsmen, as hunters, because that's what you do. You socially distance. You go out,
right,
and you get away from people.
We're used to it,
and you go hunt. That's right. So, I mean, I think that pretty well covers it. It's hard to say without some hard numbers.
Yeah, again, like we said earlier, it's all speculation. I'm going to be very interested in the numbers next year. Coming up here in 3 or 4 months, and we'll keep note of that. It'll be an interesting study to see.
Look at those success rates.
Yeah, to see how that affected, if it truly did, or if it's just
a blip on the radar.
Just because people have more time, they're posting more stuff on social media.
Who knows?
You know, I do know that there's a whole lot more on social media. There's a whole lot more big bucks. Mm-hmm. I've definitely. There's no doubt about that. It is night and day from the past couple of years, the number of big deer that I've seen come across social media. And I'm not following more people or more groups or anything like that. So I'm very interested to see those numbers next year.
Sure.
Speaking of numbers.
I'm
not a numbers guy, Kyle.
You're a little dense for that.
I
am. So this next topic we're going to talk about is something that has just we've known it's been coming for about 2 years.
Yeah. We did a podcast with a representative from BHA a couple of years ago.
About 2 years ago.
And it was mentioned not on the podcast, but
in conversation around the
podcast. That BHA Wildlife Federation want to do away with EPLUS.
Yep.
And we've talked about this exact thing here a couple of times on the past 2 or 3 podcasts. I mean, it's been brought up recently several times. And I know it may be kind of getting a little redundant, but if we didn't believe in it as strongly as we do, we wouldn't be talking about it every other podcast.
Yeah.
But because it is something that is coming and it's going to be a fight, and we believe it is so important and it's going to touch so many people's lives, we're going to talk about it again.
Yeah. Well, I think the last time we talked about it on the podcast, we were just kind of foreshadowing, saying, hey, be aware this is probably coming. It actually, came about. The first, I guess you could say, the first volleys of the fight came about on December 3rd. Senator Martin Heinrich released a letter based off of the Legislative Finance Council's report, urging the governor, urging the Sportsmen of New Mexico, and urging the Game Commission and Director Sloan to do away with the EPLUS system.
Yeah.
That was in conjunction with the Game Commission meeting that day, which I was listening to and participating in on a different subject, on the habitat stamp subject. But in that Game Commission meeting, even though it was not alluded to, or it was not set out in the agenda items, which in and of itself is a different issue, but it was brought up. The EPLUS system was brought up in discussion by the game commissioners, mm-hmm. and then directly after that, there were several members of the public who were part of these sportsmen's groups who were prepared to speak on behalf of doing away with the EPLUS system. So we're going to talk about it kind of in a different format. We've talked about the EPLUS system, and the EPLUS system. But we've talked about the EPLUS system before. We've got solid numbers from the department. These are all public numbers that you can get yourself. But I think it's valuable to go through kind of in a question and answer format to discuss the varying paths that you can take based on whatever your intentions are for that program.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna let you start because you kind of came up with the idea. So
couple of things I want to clear up. One, I want to start out with EPLUS. What we're talking about with EPLUS, Elk Private Land Use System. That's what it is. We're not talking about public land.
We're not talking about
we're talking about Yeah, we're not talking about the draw.
We're not talking about the quota.
The quota, 84%, 10%, none of that stuff. We're talking about elk private land use system.
Yep.
Okay? So this is elk using private land for habitat. Mm-hmm. That's one important key right there. Elk using private land. Our elk, a lot of times people like to point out that they're ours. Mm-hmm. They belong to the public, right? Mm-hmm. Private landowners are still part of the public.
Yes.
I own private land. Very small amount, and there's no elk on it. So I don't have an vested interest in this fight. But as far as that goes.
Yeah.
But that's what it is our elk using private land for the habitat. Okay, yes, there are elk. And if you own anything and somebody else uses it, there's a cost associated with it.
Right.
Okay. Let's just set that aside now.
Okay.
Okay. So basically what they're wanting to do is get rid of the EPLUS system, the elk private land use system. So let's break it down like this. We're going to break it down into a few questions. Question number one is, what are they wanting to gain? Why are they wanting to get rid of the EPLUS system?
And this is an interesting answer depending on who you talk to.
Yeah, but according to, let's go with the letter that Martin Heinrich wrote.
Right. The letter that Senator Heinrich wrote basically said, do away with the private landowner tags, which they're not tags, they're authorizations, but do away with those, and everything goes into a public draw.
Okay, so let's go right there real quick.
Okay,
we've touched on this before. We're going to touch on it again because we've got to hammer this home. Authorizations.
Yeah.
Okay. They get an authorization, which they can't sell.
So the
what they do is somebody says, hey, I want to hunt on your land. And they go, oh, great, I have an authorization. You can use it to buy a tag from who?
The Game and Fish.
So if I own property,
yep,
okay, and you want to hunt elk on my property, and I have an authorization, I can give you the authorization, and you can yourself do what?
Buy the tag.
Buy a tag. Who do you give the money to?
Game and Fish.
Game and Fish. So who gets the money?
Game and Fish.
And who gives it to them?
The hunter.
And the private property owner gets what from that transaction?
Nothing.
Nothing. What does the private property owner get?
He gets a trespass fee.
A trespass fee.
So this is a very important distinction to make in the EPLUS system.
Yes.
The authorization, now, this is important to distinguish because when you're talking to someone, you need to make sure that you're talking in their language.
Yes.
We often use common words such as a landowner permit. We use words like a private land tag, et cetera, et cetera. What the private landowner gets is an authorization. Technically speaking, that authorization is not worth anything to the landowner. Yes, they can give away, sell those authorizations, but the authorization itself, and proof of this is that we have leftover authorizations every single year that the landowners get nothing for. They just sit in their inbox. They don't get any payment for them. The authorization is only of value if it is converted to a license in conjunction with trespass or access fee associated with the private property that authorization has been assigned to.
Correct. So unused authorizations. Put a pin in that. I want to come back to that.
We'll come
later.
back to it.
Okay. So there you have it. They're not selling a tag because they don't get a tag.
Nope.
They get an authorization. They get an authorization, and when a person purchases trespass rights, then that landowner gives that person an authorization number, which that person can then use to purchase a tag from the state.
Correct.
And who gets the money from that person?
Game and Fish, which goes into the Game and Fish Fund, which then goes back to everything Game and Fish, habitat, salaries.
Private landowner doesn't get that money, right?
Correct.
Correct. Okay. So that's cleared up. Okay. So we have that. Now, one other point that I want to make real quick is these private land authorizations, they're and I've touched on this plenty of times too, but I'm going to do it one more time. They take the number of acres in a unit that are public and the number of acres that are private, huntable acres, right? Mm-hmm. And they say, okay, the elk herd is this big in this area. And we have...
Now let me stop you real quick. I need you to make a distinction because there are 3 different types of areas in the state that get...
We're going to get there.
Okay.
I know what you're talking about, but we're going to get there.
Go ahead.
Okay. I'm just talking about how they decide how many tags are given away in primary management zone.
Good. There's a primary management zone, there's a secondary management zone, and then there's a special management zone.
Yeah.
The primary zone.
This is primary management zone.
This is what Rodney's going to tell you about.
In the primary management zone.
This is where they're actively
managing the herd. They take the number of private land and the number of public land acres, right? And they say, okay, we can take 1,000 elk. All right. So if we're expecting 24% success rate, and we can take 1,000 elk out of this herd without any harm to the herd, and they're expecting 24% success rate, they can give away how many tags?
You do the numbers. I'm trying to.
Okay, so
they need to harvest 1,000.
They need to harvest 1,000, and they're expecting
24%.
24%. So we're going to back that up, and we're going to say,
let's say 100.
They need to harvest 100.
Yeah.
And they're expecting
they're going to be giving away
2,400 tags.
Yep.
All right.
So I was going to say that's like 240,000 tags, man.
24,000.
24,000. Whatever
Still.
it is. See, that's why you're the numbers guy.
So they're going to put 2,400 tags in the draw.
Yeah.
Okay. But wait. But they're going to say we have 2,400 tags. Okay.
Yep.
But wait. Now what they're going to do is they're going to say, okay, we've got 10,000.
Go easy. 50,000 or 50-50.
Yeah, we've got 10,000 acres in this unit. 5,000 are private, 5,000 is public.
Yep.
So it's split 50-50. So they're going to give 50% of the tax to the public land and 50% of the private land. Now, why do they do that?
To the private landowners who sign up.
To the private landowners who sign up. But why do they do that? Because you can't stress the herd in one area over the other.
Yeah.
You have to manage it properly. You know, the hunting pressure means a lot, and the herd doesn't know the difference in public and private. So they're just out there dispersed, right? And so you split it according to the number of acres.
Yeah.
Private land gets so many, public land gets so many. The reason they don't give it 70-30 is because you can't have 70% of the people hunting on public land when it only makes up 50% of the elk habitat.
Yeah.
Just doesn't make sense. So this is the way they disperse it.
And that's in the primary zone.
Primary zone.
Yep.
Now in the secondary zone, we get way off base here because it kind of reverts back to what, well, not kind of, it does. It reverts right back to what deer and now antelope is. If you have elk on your ranch, used to you had to contact the state and say, hey, I want some elk tags, and they would give them to you.
Yep.
But now you can just do it over the counter. If you're in the secondary management zone and you have elk, you can just sell as many of those on private land as you want.
Yeah.
Okay? I have a huge problem with that. We'll get to that later. But that's the way they do it, okay? But the primary management zone, they split it according to the number of acres, the percentage versus percentage of public and private. Not that hard to figure out. Yeah. It's pretty simple. So,
and then just real quick, the special management zones are zones that are prime elk habitat. They should be in the primary zone, but because of the algorithm that they use to allocate those tags, the private land to public land in those units, the private land would gobble up all the tags, and so they do special authorizations in that like the old system. So
yes.
Now getting back to
now we've explained that.
Yep.
Your answer to the question of why do they want to get rid of the EPLUS is because the public owns these tags and they want them.
The public owns
the elk and they deserve all of the tags. right?
Yeah.
Basically, in a nutshell. Okay, so the next question is, how does getting rid of EPLUS benefit the public in getting those tags?
I will answer you that it doesn't.
It doesn't.
Simply because of this. Not simply. It's more complicated than this, but I'm going to break it down in a more simple fashion because there's so many facets to it. Again, those animals, those elk, are not respecters of boundaries.
No.
If you were to take all the authorizations or all the tags that are on private land and put them in the public draw, you still cannot force your way onto private land.
No, you can't.
And so now you're going to have way more hunters on public land forcing those animals to private land. You can't access private land. And so not only are you not going to be able to harvest an animal, you're not going to be able to access property to harvest an animal, and those property owners can no longer harvest the animals. And if you think you're getting on private land, you're not.
No, you're not. Not unless you're willing to pay the money. And we're talking about New Mexico.
But here's the other thing, though. Those.
Well, hold on.
Go ahead.
Before we go to another thing, I want to, just like you said, if you take, we just explained how they split it 50-50, right? But if you take all 100% of the tags and give all those hunters to public land, and nobody's hunting on private land, but now everybody's hunting on public land, you're screwed. You're literally screwed. And one of the things that they're claiming, and when I say they, I mean BHA, New Mexico Wildlife Federation, Brandon Wynn, one of the things that they're claiming is that these ranches will have to accept the amount of money that they're going to get. They're not going to accept it.
So here's what happens.
They've been getting, they're used to getting $10,000, and now they're going to have to accept $500. It's not going to happen.
Here's what happens. In answer to that question, why wouldn't the land? Here's the question:
Okay.
Why wouldn't the landowners
allow? But before we get to that question, keep that question. But that's what they're saying, is that they're going to let whoever draws the tags. But when you talk about this, 84% of those tags still have to go to residents. Okay? We live in New Mexico. It's an impoverished state. The vast majority of those 84% cannot afford to pay the trespass fees to go on private land. So where are they going to hunt?
On public?
Public land. And when they hunt on public land, what's going to happen?
Push all the animals off.
They're going to push all the animals off, or they're going to kill them, and the herd dynamics is going to just plummet.
Yeah.
That's what's going to happen.
Well, those animals already flee to private land for a respite. That's a known fact. That's what's going to happen.
Yep.
So, coming back to the question of why wouldn't
why wouldn't a private landowner
There's
just...
states out there that have done this.
Yes.
And they've said, oh, well, the landowners will have to let them on. Here's why the landowners won't let them on. First of all, in doing that, in saying deer and pronghorn are a little bit different. They're going to say, oh, well, it'd be like deer or pronghorn. Deer and pronghorn are a little different. You can live with deer and pronghorn because they don't do a terrible amount of damage to property. Elk will tear a fence down.
Yep.
They will absolutely mow down
an alfalfa
field. Now, by doing this, by taking all these incentives, by not recognizing those landowners for the critical habitat that they provide, you have now devalued wildlife. And I'm not talking about monetary value. I'm talking about landowners who have recognized the value of wildlife, and because Game and Fish has recognized that those landowners are doing good things by providing water or critical habitat, those landowners have built wildlife into their strategic plans for the ranch.
They've built waterers.
They've spent
tons of money
on waterers,
creating habitat,
all of that stuff.
Yeah. They've done these things. They've put projects on the ground. We're talking about that. You know what? They're talking about $5 stamps from us right now. They want an extra $5 for us when they can't even use the money because the legislature ain't going to approve it. Okay? But they want to kick out all of the money that private landowners are spending on wildlife habitat right now.
That's not coming from
That's not coming from our pockets.
Yeah.
It's coming from non-residents who are footing the bill for the rent of our wildlife using private land habitat.
Yeah.
That's what's happening. They sell these tags. They make money. They're like, you know what? I like this gig.
They don't sell tags.
Sorry. Whatever. They sell these private land authorizations, trespass rights, and they like this gig. And they're like, you know what? I want more antelope on my property. I want to increase the antelope herd.
I want to increase the quality of my herd.
Exactly. So what do? They put in some drinkers. They put in some, they do some habitat work. They do some habitat improvement. They do some thinning. They clear some land for some antelope. The antelope herd increases. It's not going to just stay on private land either. Again, they don't know boundaries.
Yeah.
So they're going to go off. And in whole, the entirety of the herd gets better.
Yeah.
So we do benefit from this.
Yes.
All right? And they want to take this away. And these are the things that are happening. And they happen faster because they don't have to get legislative approval. They can just go do it.
Correct.
They can take the money that they're earning from the rich Texans who spend $10,000, $12,000, $15,000 for an elk tag, and they go out and they do some habitat work, and they improve the herd, which spills out onto the public lands without legislative approval. And it comes out of their pocket, not ours.
Yep.
Why do you want to get rid of that system?
We'll just leave that one where it's at. I could go on and on. I could go on and on about this topic. There's so many unintended consequences about getting rid of the system the way they want to, about going straight to all those tags going to a straight draw. When you talk about private landowners, and I don't mean to, I really don't, mean to put a black eye on the private landowners, but they're trying to make a living. And so if you devalue those wildlife, which they have been spending years building into their economic viability of that property, you are now going to piss them off. The other difference that we have, and maybe this will change, maybe it won't, but we have what they call a Jennings law. I don't know if they have this in other states, but we have it here in New Mexico, which you have to account for, and that is if wildlife are causing a depredation on private property, and no interventions from the Game and Fish are working, the Jennings law allows the landowner to take care of that animal, just kill them. There are some stipulations. Animals. There are some stipulations that say if you kill the animal, you got to call the game department within 24 hours. But 24 hours is a joke. You've wasted that animal. Secondly, if you do this and you go straight to the draw system, not only the follow-up to that is when you ask them, well, how do you plan on compensating landowners?
Yeah.
They say monetarily, like some other states do. So what's going to happen is you're going to have elk on a property that nobody can use, not you, not out-of-state hunters.
Not the private landowners.
Not the private landowners. And so nobody's getting to use these animals. And now who's going to foot the bill? Hunters, anglers, and trappers, because it's not coming out of the general fund. It's not coming out of general taxes. And so when that landowner says, you need to pay me for these animals or come get them off my property, because I have heard landowners say that. Say, if you do away with this, you can come get your animals off my property.
Yep. They don't belong to them. They belong to us. Remember that.
Exactly. And so not only do you have animals that you can't hunt, that you can't use, you're now paying that landowner monetarily out of hunter, trapper, and angler fees, which is going to make your license fees go up. And you are those animals are going to be there anyways.
Yeah. Yeah, and we can't get to them. And currently, what we have is a system where, again, goes right back to this. Those are our animals. Those animals belong to the public. They do not belong to the private landowners. They belong to the public. But they are using the shit out of the private land.
Yep.
Right? They're using private land for habitat, water, and food. Right?
Both of those are part of habitat.
Who's paying for that?
Right now, and that's the other thing I was going to bring up.
Yeah. Who's paying for that? Currently,
it is
rich Texans.
Yep. It is anybody.
Rich non-residents.
And residents.
And residents.
There
Rich
are
residents, too. Plenty of residents. Anybody. And one point that I did intend to make on this, and I'll make it right now, is those tags, people say this all the time. Those tags go to all of the out-of-staters. No, they don't.
No.
They go to the people that can afford them.
Yeah.
That's who it goes to. If you want to be able to afford them, save more money. Get a better job. I don't know. But
they are non-discriminatory.
Yeah,
they are
don't
not
care.
designated for out-of-staters.
No,
there are
they don't care.
There are plenty of New Mexico residents who pay trespass fees and get to hunt on private land every single year.
Yep.
Not only that, I'm going to add to that, but we have very generous landowners in New Mexico who every year donate tags to causes, to their local communities, to
veterans,
to local 4-H groups,
youths,
veterans, youth,
hunter forward,
hunter
education,
first responders, any of the sportsman groups.
Yep.
Including BHA.
Yep. BHA raffled off a unit-wide, this is ironic, unit-wide EPLUS tag
to boost membership.
And try and get away and try and get rid of EPLUS.
Yep.
How's that for irony? I mean, why didn't they auction off a public land draw tag?
Yeah.
Huh? Come on. It's ridiculous. Yeah. It's ridiculous, and it drives me crazy.
Next question, I'm going to have you answer.
All right.
So the next question that gets asked is, well, isn't this private land system, doesn't it go against the North American model of wildlife conservation, which one of the tenets is doing away with market hunting?
No.
Why?
It doesn't, because they're not market hunting. You still can't sell the elk. You still can't sell the meat. Still can't sell it. Okay? They are selling private land trespass fees.
Correct.
That's what they're selling.
Yep.
And furthermore, their new system does go against the North American model of conservation because they're not using science to determine the hunt numbers. They're using residency.
Yeah.
Or public versus private.
Yeah.
And that has nothing to do with science.
That's a different topic for a different day. But, so, I mean, that's pretty straightforward. Pretty
It is.
But it's important that you know that is being used when most of these people have not actually read the original review. And it's just a review.
I've
Go back and listen to the podcast we did with Ty.
Yeah.
It was very informative.
Yeah. A couple of things I want to kind of finish up on. We've talked about this a lot as well. We sound like we're advocates for private land, and we're like pro private land and against public land, and we are absolutely not.
We're public land hunters.
I am a public land hunter. I believe in the public land. One of my biggest problems with this is, to me, it's one more step in making it harder to hunt. They claim it's going to make it easier, more tags for residents, but I don't believe that. I don't believe it at all. I've seen no evidence that that's what is going to take place. They say, well, we need to be like other Western states. Other Western states have point systems, and it could be 5 years before you ever get to hunt. Right now, I draw 3 or 4 elk tags every 5, out of 5 years, I'm drawing 3 or 4 elk tags, and we know people that have drawn 37 out of 40. So, it's not as hard to draw tags as most people think.
Yeah.
You just got to put a little bit more effort into it. Secondly, the increase in the tag numbers, like the $5 fee and the increase, and if this goes through, there's obviously going to be an increase in license fees, which we already know is coming. And these things don't, and a point system, none of these things promote new hunters. And one thing that we know for a fact is that hunter numbers are on the decline across the nation. Currently, they're not in New Mexico. Just think about that. Currently in New Mexico, they're not. So New Mexico is already doing something right.
Yeah. And not only that, but New Mexico has been kind of on the forefront of innovative ways of wildlife management for many years. They were the first to pioneer trapping and transplanting of pronghorn.
Yep.
The huge successes that we've had in New Mexico in bringing back wildlife like bighorn sheep, things like that, is proof that New Mexico's doing some things right.
Yeah. But to me, one of the things that we got to quit being selfish. One of the reasons that everybody's talking about this is because, well, better odds of drawing a tag and blah, 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 blah. But, man, if we don't stop and start thinking about bringing new hunters into the game to continue this for the future, then in 20, 30, 40 years, there's not going to be any hunting.
Yeah.
And so we've got to do things that make it easier for new people to get into hunting rather than making it harder. And private land hunting is where we have taken all of our hunt it forward participant hunting. And there's people out there that say that we're in this for the money. One thing, we don't get any money.
Yeah.
And two, we're not in it for ourselves. We're in this to help others. That's what we're doing here. And that's what Hunt It Forward is to get new people hunting. Tags that could have been ours, opportunities that we had to get tags from other people have given to us that we could use for ourselves. And we've chosen to
pass those along
and help other people get into hunting.
Yeah.
And that, to me, should be the focus of more people out there. Not, I want another tag.
Not only that, but that I want another tag mentality, that is often the answer to the question of why do you want to do this?
Yes.
Because I want another tag. I want a better opportunity of drawing. We should be thinking about what's best for the wildlife.
Yes, absolutely. Number one reason that we are against getting rid of EPLUS is because we do not believe it is what is best for the wildlife herd and the future of hunting.
And
here in New Mexico.
Right. And having said all that, do we think the EPLUS system is perfect?
No.
No. There are a ton of room for improvements. And there's some innovative ideas out there that could help alleviate some of these issues. The one thing that I will say is taking all private land tags and putting them in the public draw is not the solution.
No.
There are all kinds of things that we could talk about, and if people want to sit down and at the table and talk about those, we are more than willing to do that with anybody, sportsmen's groups, whoever. But this attack on the private property has been ongoing and ongoing and ongoing, and it's just not good. It's another wedge between us in the hunting community.
Mm-hmm. We've got a system currently where we're physically have a hand in wildlife management of elk on private property. It's the same thing that we preached on the antelope when the EPLUS system got done in a couple years ago. We were actively managing antelope on private land. Mm-hmm. And now it's gone.
Yeah.
And now private landowners can kill as many antelope on their private land as they want to. Now go fight that.
Yeah.
Go fight that. Go fight private landowners being able to just kill as many antelope as they want. Don't fight the government dictating how many elk private landowners can kill.
Yeah.
Why is that? Come on. Go fight antelope. Go deer. Deer numbers are on decline. And they've been killing deer on private land as many as they want for years. Go fight that.
Yeah.
Why are you fighting this? That's what I don't understand. You had a pin in a question. Unused authorizations.
Yep.
I want to get back to that.
Okay.
Because, like you said, we don't think that EPLUS is perfect. There are lots of solutions, lots of good outside-of-the-box solutions. Put those unused authorizations in a draw. I'm all for it.
Yeah.
Tell the private landowners, hey, you're going to get all these authorizations, but if a landowner's getting 30 tags, say, listen, 10% of those you need to put in the public draw. I have no problem with that, and I bet you landowners wouldn't either. But it's something that could be, keyword here, negotiated.
Yeah.
And looked into, but why just eradicate it? And that helps out because now you're getting those unused authorizations. You're actually using them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Make those unit wide. I don't know.
Well,
unit wide system needs a whole lot of work itself. I'm all for reworking the unit wide portion of the EPLUS system.
Absolutely.
Making it a much more fair and equitable trade than what it currently is. Now, there's instances, where a person's got 1 acre of land, but it's the only water within 5 miles. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm sorry, that dude's providing some excellent habitat.
Yeah.
Because it's the only water within 5 miles.
Yep.
So, I don't care. He can be unit wide.
Yeah.
What's the problem with, he's not getting that many tags. And not to mention, that's what's called a small contributing ranch. Mm-hmm. They have to draw those tags.
Yeah.
They have to actually draw them.
Yeah.
They don't get just given tags. They have to draw them.
Yeah. No, there's definitely some solutions. I think those solutions probably need to be talked about. But I don't think what I'm vehemently against is taking private tags and putting in a public draw. I think that's going to be a disaster. I also don't want to just totally scrap the system.
Yep. So, and here's the problem that I have. The biggest problem I have with this entire thing, the biggest problem that I have with the push from the BHA, from the New Mexico Wildlife Federation, and Mr. Brandon Wynn, is the bullshit lies, because that's what they are, straight up lies, misinformation to try and gain public support, to try and say to the public, hey, these private landowners are getting all of your tags, because it's not true. Yeah. It's not like they're just stealing from us and getting what they want. They're still getting managed by the state. They're getting numbers that are dictated to them by the state. Mm-hmm. It's
the
done. The
money's going back to the state
done
for the
scientifically.
licenses.
The money goes back to the state for the licenses. And then there's also this. The taxes that these landowners have to pay on these tags that they get. Mm-hmm. These authorizations that they get. The grocer's eats tax. That goes to your communities. Directly to your community.
Not only that, but let's talk about the actual revenue that comes in.
Not just revenue.
Based on, let's talk about the revenue first.
Yeah.
So strictly licensed revenue based on that Legislative Finance Council report that was sent out. Mm-hmm. Not resident license revenue, just straight up from licenses, from residents buying licenses, was just over $5 million. Mm-hmm. Non-resident license revenue was $10 million.
Yep.
Over $10 million. So almost double.
Yep.
Now let's take that and we'll extrapolate it down to the elk system, because that was all licenses. But the elk licenses, give or take 37,000 and some change was licenses that were in the public, total elk licenses sold
37,000.
in 2019-2020 was 37,000 some change. Total private land licenses sold in 2019-2020 was 13,000. A third. And in New Mexico, land makeup is about 52% private property.
Yep.
So, and not every landowner signed up for elk tax.
No.
So a very small portion of landowners is getting approximately just a hair
30,
over 1/3.
Yeah, about 30
of the elk licenses.
34%.
So, yeah, I mean, that 1/3 is paying double what the revenue of residents.
Yep. And then let's also talk about this. They're talking about going back to the questions, who are we trying to benefit here? New Mexico residents. Okay. New Mexico residents are outfitters. They're guides. They're cooks. They're wives. They're kids. These people have jobs in the hunting industry because of private land hunting.
Yeah.
It's not just, can I have a tag? It's not just, I want better odds at drawing a tag. It's life.
And don't quote me on this. It's actually going to be interesting. Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation is coming out with a series of articles talking about non-residents' impact in different states across the United States. Not just license fees, but the economic impact. And don't quote me on these numbers because I'm waiting for the article to come out. But I was talking to a friend in the RMEF, and they looked at Colorado. Again, it's not New Mexico, but you're going to see a trend probably. The economic impact from residents hunting in the state was somewhere, I want to say around, and I may be way off, but it was a stark contrast. Somewhere around 15 million, the economic impact. Non-residents, which are generally less that are coming to hunt in that state, economic impact statewide was something like 72 million.
Yeah. And that's a big deal. So, and now that's not to say that we need to trade all of our hunting for money.
Absolutely
Because
we don't.
Because we deserve our 84% of public tax. We absolutely deserve that. I think that that's a good thing that we have that. I think it's a great thing that we give all cow tags to New Mexico residents because those are meat hunts and our New Mexico residents deserve that. And that's where it should stay, all right? But we believe that everything is an ecosystem, and private land is just as big a part of that ecosystem as public land. Private land hunters, residents, non-residents, public land hunters, all of it. They're all a part of the ecosystem. We have to find ways to get along and work together to better the future of hunting. That's what we have to do. And there's a whole crew of people out there that work in the industry. Like I said, there's private land all across this state that employs people for hunting purposes. And they may or may not lose their jobs if hunting goes away on private land. And I'm not okay with causing people to lose their job so I can have an extra 0.5% chance at drawing a tag.
Yeah.
I'm just not.
Yeah.
That's selfishness. And if the BHA and the Mexico Wildlife Federation and Brandon Wynn, if that's what they want to do, and that's what they want to preach for, yeah.
Rodney's being nice.
Yeah, that to me, I mean, you just can't do that. All for an extra chance at a tag.
Yeah.
It's BS.
It's a very selfish view.
Yeah. I love hunting.
On wildlife
I
management.
absolutely love hunting. Every year the second hunting season ends. This year it'll be in January 15th is when our season will end for the year. And when it does, January 16th, I'll be planning next year because I live and breathe hunting. It means so much to me. It means so much to me that I want to pass it on to others so it just stays forever. And that's why I do this.
Yep.
So to think that I'm doing this for money or any other reason is ridiculous. I'm doing this and I'm taking this stance because I love hunting and it's that important. And as important as it is to me, I would not trade the livelihood of another family, of another person's job, just so I can have an extra chance. There's just no way.
Yep. I think that's a good place to end it.
Sounds good to me. They're hammering this pretty hard, guys. You're going to see a lot of posts on social media from them when they're going to gear up to fight this on the next rule cycle, I'm assuming.
Which is the rule cycle. I think the rule opens in 2022, but they're starting this now to get the momentum. Yeah.
So I'm not going to tell you guys what to do. Make up your own minds. We say this all the time. I have my stance. I have my opinion. But what I do encourage you to do, and what I do hope you do, is
get involved in the process.
Get involved. Not just that, but ask why. Mm-hmm. Ask why. And if the answer is because we deserve more of a chance of drawing a tag as New Mexico residents, as public landowners, then that's not enough.
You might re-examine your reasoning.
Look into it. Do some research. Don't come up with the same bullshit cliche answer. Well, all them damn non-residents are getting them tags, and they're making all that money, and they don't deserve it. Come on. Look at the impact. Go research. Don't take our word for it. Go research. Find out more about private land. And
go talk to a landowner and see what it means to them.
Yeah. So find out more before you just sign up and sign on the dotted line. Go research it. Go talk to more people. Don't listen to just us. Don't listen to BHA, Wildlife Federation. Go do some actual research. Learn for yourself. Come up with your own Red McBride opinion. And then write your governor, write your commissioner, write your game commission, all of that with your own opinion. But make sure it's a well-informed opinion.
And I think it's good to touch on that. And this is not me trying to tell you that you need to think the way that I think. We put out some social media posts on the habitat stamp fee increase, all for the habitat stamp, all for what it does. We just don't think the fee increase was necessary. Obviously, we got a lot of pushback on that. That's their prerogative. If that's what they want to do, that's fine. But the fee increase is not needed in our opinion. I sent out on social media a letter that I wrote, and I would encourage you. Like, I sent it out kind of as an idea to give some people an idea, because I know sometimes it's hard for you to come up with something that's well intentioned and well worded and things like that. I would encourage you not to just take something that someone has written and copy and paste and put your name on it. Listening to the Game Commission meeting, they pay attention to that. They say this is how many people wrote in favor of this item. This is how many people wrote against this item. And I heard the director say there were many of these that were form letter style responses. So those don't mean as much as
correct
a thought out, personalized letter from you giving your stance.
Yeah, exactly.
We got some good topics coming up.
We do. We got some real good.
And we may do what we've done before and say we got good topics coming up and release one of those before we release this. But I don't think that on this one.
No,
We're going to release one pretty immediately.
This one's going to go out. Yeah, this one's going to go out pretty quick because, this stuff's coming up. I don't know. We got a hunt it forward hunt. We may push some of that out pretty quick. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's coming up here in a couple of days. Hunt it forward.
Yep. We're going to talk about. We're going to talk to Lance Bernal.
Yeah.
Talk about the sheep hunt. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that's going to be a fun topic.
And we've got Hunt It Forward coming up, so we got a lot of good stuff at the end of the year.
We got a 2B.
Got a 2B hunt coming up.
Yep. We'll get Dodo back on the podcast for a
Dodo bird
for a spin or two.
Yep.
What else we got coming? And that's about it. We got an antelope coming, huh?
We've got don't forget to get entered in for the elk hunt.
Don't forget to get entered
with us, guys.
Yes, that's the big.
You
deal.
said January 15th. Actually, that's going to be technically the end of our season.
Well, I say January
for
that's
us hunting.
for our hunt for our hunts. That's after that. That's when I start planning next year's hunts because that's all of our draw hunts.
I know,
right?
I'm just giving you a hard time. You don't got to get serious.
Right. But yeah, the cow hunt it's a big deal to us. We love. Last year, we did the Barbary giveaway, and that was a lot of fun. I'd only ever been Barbary hunting in Texas. Was it? I don't know. Is it an afternoon
as a non-resident?
Yeah, on private land.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun, and our winner from the Barbary hunt has entered the elk contest. Good luck to him.
Good luck, Holt.
Yep, and really looking forward to that hunt. So hopefully a lot of people will get entered. When we did the Barbary hunt giveaway, we had like 700
entries.
700 and something entries. I haven't even looked to see how many entries we have for the elk hunt. But hopefully we'll get
plenty of time.
Hopefully we'll get about the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. So get in there. Go to our social media again. We told you at the beginning of the podcast.
Did we say somewhere around Christmas?
Yeah, I think we'll do it shortly before Christmas.
Okay.
We'll have to do a live draw. We'll probably do it.
Or you want to do it as a New Year's deal?
No, because the hunt's in late January.
That's true.
So we got to give them enough.
Time. Christmas.
We got to give them enough time. We'll probably do it, maybe day before Christmas Eve or something.
Sounds great.
Yeah, something like that. So hopefully this podcast comes out before Christmas Eve.
I can't imagine this podcast isn't coming out tonight, but
yeah. So, but go get entered. Check that out. If you haven't already, share it with your friends. Tell all your people. Go to Instagram. There's a post on Instagram. Let me just look it up here real quick.
Well, and we'll refresh our story with the posts. You can go directly back to. We should probably be doing that every day, but go back to the original post.
Yeah, it's on here. I know it's on here. Oh, there it is. Yeah, it's right there.
Yeah, now.
Cow out giveaway.
Yep.
It's big fat cow out giveaway. We're like rookies at social media. We shouldn't be because we've been doing this we're in our third season. And I don't want to do a new post because then I have to count all of those. But I probably will anyway.
We probably should anyways.
But yeah, go to Instagram, go to Facebook, tag 5 friends, share it to your story. Share it to your story. Not on your page. Share it to your story.
That'll give you 2 entries.
That'll give you 2 entries. And you can enter, your wife can enter, and if you win and you've already had a tag, you can give it to your wife or your sister, your brother, your best friend. We don't care. But go enter and good luck.
Yeah. We'll catch you guys on the next podcast.
Adios.
Adios.